G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and today we're going to be talking about freelance. Now, while this video is aimed specifically at graphic designers and animators, it's very applicable to all fields. So things like audio engineering, sound effects and music design, that sort of thing, as well as other things like video editing, special effects, all that stuff. So while all of these points are applicable to most fields, I'm going to be talking as an animator, as a graphic designer. Now, what is freelance? Freelance is where somebody else comes to you and says, I want you to make something for me. Now, there's a trap that a lot of people fall into very early on in their experience of being a freelancer, and I'm going to illustrate that with a bit of a scenario. Now, imagine a man walks into a computer store and walks up to the desk and says, hey, I want a laptop, buddy. And the guy at the front desk says, oh, I've got this really good laptop here. It's good quality. I'll give it to you for a reasonable price. And this guy says, great, that's amazing. I want that laptop. I'm going to use it for everything, and I want it for free. Now, the store clerk says, well, we have to pay for this laptop. We can perhaps give you a discount if you're willing to, talk that through with us. But, we're not going to just give it to you for free. And this guy says, no, you don't understand. I'm going to use this laptop for everything. I'm going to tell everyone about it and it's going to get so much exposure. This laptop will be seen by thousands of people. Everyone else is going to come in here and want to buy this laptop from you. This may seem like a ridiculous scenario, but trust me, freelancers go through this all the time. And you'd think that after doing this for so long that I don't get that anymore, but that's not true at all. I got it when I started and I still get it today. People want the product for free. So rule number one is a warning. Do not work for nothing. If you're at the stage where you're of a professional level and you're ready to hire out yourself for work, there are three things people are going to offer you all the time. They're going to offer you payment in exposure, they're going to offer partnership on the project, and they're going to offer experience. Now, these things are pretty dangerous. Let's talk about the first one, exposure. Oh my goodness, I get this one a lot. People come up to me and say, I've got an idea for a viral animation or a really funny thing or just a great image that everyone's going to share. Now, more often than not, these people have no credibility to their name. They have no projects on their own. They just want a piece of the pie and have no talent or are not willing to put the time in themselves to earn it. So they're going to go to you and say, I want you to make this for me. You have the ability. It's your job to say, no, I am actually valuable. My time is valuable and I have a price on it. I'm willing to do a project for you, but you're going to pay me this amount. The partnership's another thing. Someone might come to you and say, look, I've got this script for a great TV sitcom thing and I want to pitch it on Kickstarter. How about you animate the first episode for me and we put it on Kickstarter and pitch it and then you and I make the money together. No, that's their idea. And they're trying to bring you onto their idea to work for free so that their non-reality becomes a reality without any effort on their part. The fact is, when you're doing freelance work, someone else has come to you and is asking you to do something for them. Unless it's something that you want to do, unless it's your passion and you're willing to work for free because that's what you want and you're protected legally and you have all future right to IP and copyright and all that stuff, I wouldn't go near this stuff. And then finally, experience. Whether it be a small or large job, this is not a form of payment. You're going to get experience with everything you do, and that's just part of the job. But you know what? Experience doesn't pay the bills and keep the lights on and keep your rent paid. So that having been said, we're going to talk about the do's of freelance. We're going to talk about the things that you should keep in mind when you're working for other people. And the first thing is to prioritize your client. There's a term that's used for high-end clients, which is blue chip, which basically means, let's say you're at a poker or blackjack table or whatever, and the most valuable chip, apparently, is the blue chip. I'm not actually sure. I don't play the game. Now, this term is used because that means that the freelancer is prioritizing that client because they're a corporation, they're a high-paying job. But in my own personal experience, the absolute best approach has been to treat every client as the blue chip client, as the VIP treatment client. You want to make sure that your clients get regular updates. Email them when you've made some progress, show them some screenshots and say, this is what I've got done and this is what I plan on doing. Communicate clearly, make sure to use proper language and be formal. That doesn't mean you have to be a stiff. That doesn't mean you can't be friendly in an email, but that does mean you just need to be very articulate and make sure they understand that you understand clearly what they want. Make sure to involve the client in the whole process. Ask their opinions on things. They may not be artists, but you're working for their vision. They may not even be a visionary with a proper vision, but most times, even though these people may not have a great visual sense of things, they know what they want when they see it. And you can ask them, you can offer stages and preliminary designs, which is something I do very often, as well as animatics for animations, and make sure that you offer them a sense of timing and pacing for everything that you're giving them so that they know what it's going to end up like before you do a huge slog of work and they say, oh, that's actually not what I want. And then you're in kind of a pickle because you've put hours of work into something that you haven't asked them if that's what they're going to want. Make sure to offer suggestions in a constructive way. Say, in my experience, that might not work so well, perhaps we could do this. Don't necessarily shut them down, but on the other end of things, if you're working for someone who's paying you and they have a vision that you don't necessarily believe in, doesn't matter. They're paying you, you're working for that vision. And the final point I'm going to add in this bit is to expect the same treatment. So if you're treating them with respect as a VIP client, you as the freelance worker should expect the exact same treatment. You should expect them to speak respectfully of you, to communicate clearly. If you're giving constant updates, you want their feedback now and then, you get the basic idea. Finally, before we move on from this point, I just want to add that I've had experiences where I've worked for clients that are just one person and it's a single, simple job, and me treating them as professional and a valuable customer has turned into whole other jobs. I'm currently in the midst of working with two valuable clients, one of which is a company, the other of which is an entrepreneur slash venture capital sort of guy. And both of those jobs came to me from a job I did like 4 years ago. Because that one guy I did an animation for 4 years ago, I treated with a lot of respect. I made sure to offer a lot of suggestions. I had all the time that he needed for me to get this job done in a timely manner and better quality than he expected. Then all of a sudden, 3 to 4 years later, when he's talking in an office with a bunch of people, he says, oh, well, I'd recommend this guy because he's really good. So remember that your name is becoming a brand. And as soon as you're freelancing, it carries a reputation, and your bestseller is word of mouth. And that happens by being the best possible person for the job, for everyone that you're doing the jobs for. Now let's talk about payment. This is a bit of an interesting sort of conversation. Now your time and your experience are valuable. Sometimes people like you might go through university courses to gain a degree in arts or whatever it is that you're freelance working for. And then on top of that, you have all of the time that you've spent in your own time developing and honing your skills. So while to some people, you might just be a guy who draws pictures, you need to remember and keep in mind that you're a tradesman, you're an artist, you're someone who has a craft that they're working on perfecting. So from here, you need to figure out your hourly rate. Now, this is a bit tricky. First of all, you don't want to go with minimum wage just to get work. Even if you're less experienced, you got to remember that when you're selling yourself, you don't have any benefits or off pay. So if you're sick or you break your arm and you all of a sudden can't work for a month or something like that, where's your money coming from? You're in a bit of a pickle. So you naturally need to charge a little higher when you're self-employed than someone who is employed and has benefits and has security options. Remember too that your service is special, meaning that there aren't as many people out there doing what you do as there are people who work at fast food restaurants or at grocery stores or in shopping centers. So with that in mind, don't charge minimum wage. Don't be over the top because there are other options out there. But when I say your service is special, that may not necessarily mean that you have to be the best quality to consider your service special. It also means your service is special. That means the way you treat a client is better than the way anyone else is going to be treating a client, and that to them is one of the most valuable things. Here's another thing to keep in mind when working out how much you're going to be charging for a certain job. This is a little triangle that was shown and demonstrated to me by my audio engineer, and I've never forgot it since. On this triangle, there are 3 corners. There is the top, the idolized, cheap. Everyone wants it cheap, but the problem is they can only pick 2 corners on this triangle. The other corner is fast, and then the last corner is quality. So if they want something cheap and fast, it's not going to be very good quality. If they want something fast and made with great quality, you're not going to be cheap because you're going to be prioritizing that over your other jobs. You're going to be spending long hours to make it work well, and that is worth being paid for. And then the final combination, of course, is if they want really high quality and they want it cheaper, it's not going to be a very fast job. It's going to be something that's going to be on the back burner, and it's likely a job you'll only take up if you're passionate about it as well. So if someone has an idea that you're really merging with, you love the idea, you want to work on that, they want it great quality, so do you, but they don't have much money, you're not going to be able to prioritize it realistically. Now, this is the last thing I wanted to show you. This is the freelance page on my website. Now, I'm using this as a demonstration as to how I sort of figure out rough ideas as to how to quote customers. A quote is basically when they come to you, they want a job, you say, I will charge this much for doing that job and I might take around this long. So this is a bit of a quote generator. Now, it's not 100% accurate. The reason I wanted to show you this is to explain a little bit of the reasonings that an artist, a freelancer would go through to come at the prices that they come to. Now, a simple illustration here is listed at the lowest cost of all of these things, and as you can see, the lowest cost is $100. Now, that might seem a little over the top, but consider the fact that even the character on the thumbnail of this video took me about half an hour to draw. That is what I would consider a simple illustration, and when people want a simple illustration, they want something very particular. They want a character for a logo, which is going to be used all the time. They want something that they're going to be using for something a little more special. It might be something more personal as well. It might be a proposal for their girlfriend, or it might be a present for their best friend or a family member. This is something that's valuable to them, and your time should be considered valuable for it as well. Digital painting is an example of something that's a little more difficult to do. So usually when I do a digital painting, I think in my head it's roughly a full day's work. If there are lots more characters, so for example, if I click in here and go to the option to have 3 characters in the digital painting, you notice it adds $100 there. It takes a lot longer to do 3 characters than it does 1. So you got to consider that, and you got to remember basically how long it takes you to do something. Try not to be over optimistic when you're quoting for a job just because you want to offer the best price possible. You also got to remember how much time these things take. The final example on my website is short animation. Now, this is an example of something that can escalate very, very quickly. So we have 10 seconds of simple 1 character minimal animation with no sound or music that costs $100. Now, this is quite a simple thing. This might be a logo transformation for the intro of a YouTube channel, that sort of thing, and that will often take me a couple of hours to do well. Now, if we keep the 10 seconds and we bump up to, let's say, 3+ characters with complex action animation, dynamic environment, and complex sound, all of a sudden that's $500 for the same 10-second clip. Now, that might seem quite ridiculous, but let's go through these things. 3 characters, that's 3 times the work. Now, it's not just 3 times the work of simple animation, it's 3 times the work of complex animation. And when I say complex animation, 10 seconds of a 30 frames per second animation is 300 frames. And often in complex animation, you're drawing on doubles or you're drawing on singles, and that means you're going to be drawing and redrawing hundreds of frames of animation, and that's a lot of time. That's days of work. Dynamic environment takes a lot of work to have things parallax, to have things animated in the background, whether it be weather or motion down the street or something like that. And then sound and music is a whole different thing, and this is just an example as to how quickly these things can escalate. So I hope I've demonstrated to you that there's a lot more to freelance than just getting gigs and getting exposure and all that stuff. It's really about making a brand out of yourself, showing other people that you're worth something, and then proving that, making sure you deliver on everything that you promise. Now, good luck to you all out there. The advice I might give to people starting out looking for freelance work is to take yourself seriously, but make sure you continue to work on your craft, advertise yourself, be clear and professional. And although you might be charging a little less than someone who's a bit more of a veteran in serious animation, you still want to charge something, you still want to get something out of it. The exception to the first rule that I said, which was don't work for nothing, can be if it's something you want. So for example, I've done art for people where I've gone to them and offered the art in exchange for a bit of exposure and stuff like that. But that's because I wanted to be involved with their stuff, and the bit of exposure was great, sort of payoff and that sort of thing. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and got a bit out of it, and that any one of you who is working to become a bit more professional and doesn't know how to take that step or treat the professional scene has a little more to work with. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoy my videos. You can download the reference files from this tutorial by clicking the link in the description. And remember to share any art, animation or game you make on Newgrounds.com. Until next time, see you later.